Oh, Father, what a hell of witchcraft lies in the small orb of one particular tear, but with the inundation of the eyes, what rocky heart to watch her will not wear? What breast so cold that is not warmed here? O cleft effect, cold modesty, hot wrath, both fire from hence and chill extincture hath. Just as I was finishing family outing, my dad died in a freak skiing accident. I pulled myself together for a couple of years, began writing End of Innocence, which was my attempt to make sense of my early music career, its precipitous demise, and my passionate relationship with an older woman. Tragically, Joan died of cancer after less than 2 years of powerful love and intense involvement. I'd like to think that fate had a hand in what happened that summer. That it was the Pants' destiny to find us. Where they came from and why they chose us, well, that will always be a mystery. But perhaps that was part of their miracle. That they sensed, in that moment, how much we needed them. How much we needed some little bit of faith to hold on to, when it seemed like everything we believed in was about to slip away. The song Independent Women by Destiny's Child is about women purchasing things independently of men. Now, I have 2 daughters. One is 3 years old, and one is 1.5. As they grow, they will go down paths in their lives. The poetry of William Shakespeare, titled A Lover's Complaint, the prose of Chaz Bono, titled Transition, the Story of How I Became a Man, and the drama of Anne Brashares, titled The Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, are all scenarios that could happen to any woman. Now, I will always be happy for and proud of my daughters no matter what. However, I will want them to make a positive impact on the rest of the world. Together, it was as if we formed one single complete person. Wild, unstoppable Bridget, shy and beautiful Lena, Tibby the rebel, and me, Carmen, the writer. Can't buy anything new at a vintage store. We were never and had never been apart. And all that was about to change. From off a hill whose concave womb reworded, a plaintful story from a sisterine vale, my spirits to attend this double voice accorded, and down I laid to list the sad tuned tale. Ere long espied a fickle maid full pale, tearing of papers, breaking rings a-twain, storming her world with sorrows, wind, and rain. Take those out right now and try these on. Upon her head a plaited hive of straw, which fortified her visage from the sun, whereon the thought might think some time it saw the carcass of a beauty spent and done. Time had not scythed all that youth begun, nor youth all quit, but spite of heaven's foul rage, some beauty peeped through lattice of seared age. This realization didn't happen as a sudden epiphany. No, as with most instances of self-understanding, there were a lot of smaller events that seemed to hint at this larger, more encompassing truth. But the direction these hints seemed to point to was so frightening and disconcerting that, true as I knew it was, I did everything in my power to shut it down, to deny it, to talk myself out of it, and to block it. With drugs, with ill-fated relationships, with isolation. Anything that seemed to push that truth from view. Her hair nor loose nor tied in formal plait, proclaimed in her a careless hand of pride, for some untucked descended her sheaved hat, hanging her pale and pined cheek beside. Some in her thread and fillet still did bide, and, true to bondage, would not break from thence, though slackly braided in loose negligence. 1,000 favors from Aman she drew, of amber crystal and of beaded jet, which one by one she in a river threw, upon whose weeping margin she was set, like usury applying wet to wet, or monarchs' hands that lets not bounty fall, where want cries some, but where excess begs all. Call me crazy, but it's scientifically impossible that a pair of pants could fit me. And me. And me. And me. This is crazy. I got a little closer to understanding what was going on with me during my first attempt at sobriety. I recall being at an all-lesbian barbecue with some new friends. At the time, I was involved with a woman who was very social, as well as sober, and I was doing my best to expand my own social life after being so withdrawn. Newly clear-headed, I still found myself 2 steps removed from the group, observing their interactions, listening to their stories, and not as engaged as I could have been. And it occurred to me that day, I am not like any of these women. I'm not a femme lesbian, I'm not a jock lesbian, I'm not even a stone butch despite my mannish shoes and clothing. I had tried on all these quintessential lesbian identities, but none of them had ever really fit. No, I thought to myself, I'm something other, something entirely different. A reverend man that graced his cattle nigh, sometime a blusterer that the ruffle knew, of court of city and had let go by, the swiftest hours observed as they flew. Towards this afflicted fancy fastly drew, and, privileged by age, desires to know, in brief, the grounds and motives of her woe. Like everyone else on this planet, I grew up in a society of rigid gender roles and had the same distance and lack of understanding about what being transgender really means. Look at our discomfort with feminine men, and to a slightly lesser extent, masculine women. We have plenty of derogatory labels for people who don't fit into our society's strict notions of masculine and feminine. Sissy, queen, fairy, butch, dyke, and tomboy, to name a few. Sisters of the pants? Yes. We need rules. Every sisterhood has rules. Thank you, a manifesto. Okay, good point. I love it. Okay, rule number 1. Each sister is going to keep the pants for a week. A week! Lena should be first because Greece is the furthest away. For lo his passion but an art of craft. Even there resolved my reason into tears. There my white stole of chastity I daft, shook off my sober guards and civil fears, appear to him as he to me appears, all melting through our drops this difference bore. His poisoned me, and mine did him restore. So, we need one more. We need a final rule. Final rule? Okay, pants equal love. Love your sisters and love yourself. Oh, that infected moisture of his eye. Oh, that false fire which in his cheek so glowed. Oh, that forced thunder from his heart did fly. Oh, that sad breath his spongy lungs bestowed. Oh, all that borrowed motion seeming owed would yet again betray the forebetrayed, and new pervert a reconciled maid. Before I made my decision to start the process, I was terrified about how all of the people I was close to would handle and feel about my transition. I also had to contend with the fact that, unlike most individuals who transition relatively privately, because I was a public figure with famous parents, my transition would have to take place in front of the whole world. To the pants, and the sisterhood, and this summer, and the rest of our lives, together and apart.